Hey, how you doing? My name's Aiden and welcome to Studio Raphael. Studio Raphael is my home for creative healing. Now in this video, I'm going to be talking about my personal healing journey. But first things first, let's just discuss what does it mean to heal. Well, you see, there's two types of healing. The first type of healing is the healing that we do with our body. You get a scratch, your body heals it, and then it just looks like nothing happened there anymore, right? The second type of healing has to do with the mind. Traumas, limiting beliefs, false ideas that get implanted into our minds that become reality, but that aren't necessarily true. So the goal of healing the mind is to discover what isn't necessarily true in our minds and to correct it. So that way we can live a life that is properly aligned with who we really are, with the life we desire to live, and we can live freely, being ourselves. So without further ado, let's get into it. When I was born, I was the youngest of 3 boys. Now growing up, there weren't any real issues, but at this stage in my life, I've been able to reflect on my childhood and see something was missing. You see, what I realized is that as a young boy, and this is sort of a shot in the dark still, but I believe I felt like I needed to be bigger than I was for attention. I really wanted to be seen by my parents and by my family, but because I was the youngest, I had to fight for attention. So growing up, I had a really big personality. I was really confident in myself, or so it seemed. I was very outgoing. I was in the musicals at my school, in the plays, in the choir. I loved singing, I loved dancing, I loved acting. I just loved doing all of it. By grade 7, I was in the leads in my plays. I seemed to be the most popular kid at my school. At least that's sort of what it felt like. And it just felt like nothing could really go wrong for me until everything went wrong. And overnight, I lost all my friends. 13 years old, from one day to the next, my entire reality shattered. I didn't know what to do with myself. So basically for the next 5 years through high school, I became a shell of myself. I was very small. I dealt with bullying for the first 2 years and sort of dealing with the kids who I had a falling out with, and that kind of continued. But then eventually, I guess my attitude shifted and I thought to myself, okay, well, if I can't beat them, I might as well join them. And so eventually I just became this all-out macho bro who was going to the gym 6 days a week. I was hitting great deadlift numbers and I was a strong dude, but I was not happy. I was doing everything for the lifts, for the attention, just to try and be seen and to feel like I was enough. Once I graduated, I went to university, but I was in this space of just total unalignment. I slowly started to slip, I started to lose direction, and eventually what ended up happening was that by the time I left university, I had no sense of purpose in the world, and yeah, I came home from school after starting my 3rd year, just not able to complete it, barely even able to start it, and got a job and didn't know what to do with myself. And I was sad and I was depressed, and a relationship came to a close there, and I was probably at the lowest point in my life. I felt so sad. And that was when I went on a trip to the UK. I went to a music festival with my brothers. I went to Glastonbury, and while we were there, I went and I saw this guy, a healer person at a tent. And I spoke with this guy, and I just remember him saying to me that there's a difference between the psychological self and the true self. And somehow in that moment, something in me just like really shifted. I just felt so relieved. Like all this pain that I was feeling wasn't actually me. It was just this idea of me, and I could let go of it. And the trip finished and I came home and I felt really good. And life was pretty good for a while. And then I went to school and I learned sound design for visual media, but something still wasn't right. And I was dealing with a bipolar diagnosis, and I thought I was happy, but I wasn't really happy. And I was struggling, and I got into another relationship, and it was a bad relationship. And then slowly but surely things just sank and sank and sank until I was at the lowest place in my life again. But this time I had a better sense of who I was. This time, something just felt different about this low point. I just finished up a contract working at a post-production audio studio. It was hard. I was burnt out. I was exhausted. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to go to the woods for a couple nights and just try and refresh my life and refresh myself. So that's what I did. And I was out in the woods, and I shut my phone off. And for 2 nights, I just spent time with myself. And on that first night, I just sat. And I sat with the stars, and I sat with the world, and I just said, hey, look, God, universe, whatever you are, please, if there's something greater out for me, just show me a sign. And I stared, and pressure in my chest built, and I got tighter and tighter, and pressure built, and I was like, please just show me something. And then all of a sudden, this huge shooting star went across the sky. And at that same moment the shooting star went across the sky, the pressure in my chest just like released. It was instantaneous the way the two of them happened together. And I was like, okay, I guess that's my sign. So I went home and things felt good and it was still hard, but I said to myself, I'm no longer going to reach out to people who aren't going to message me. So I stopped and nobody messaged me. And I was alone for a period there. But then I started to meet new people. And then I met a new partner. And then I made new friends. And then I rebuilt my life from a space of not personal fulfillment, but just a personal sense of knowing that I was worth something. And yeah, you know, I was still struggling to put myself out there again. I was still dealing with the weight of everything that I'd amassed in myself for the last 15 years, 10 years, whatever, I guess my whole life basically. But I was dealing with it and I was putting myself out into the world, and I started performing again, and I started teaching a little bit, and I started just trying new things and taking risks. And it was hard, but I did it and I kept pushing myself, and 3-4 years down the line now, I'm DJing and MCing and doing work that I really enjoy. I'm finding so much more fulfillment in my life. I'm no longer living from a place of emptiness and lack and feeling like I have to be more or be enough in order to have what I desire. I'm living from a space of so much more fulfillment. But that all came from reaching the lowest point in my life. So that's my personal story and my personal journey. It's not perfect, but I hope that at the very least that helps you see that healing for you is possible. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like. And if you have anything to add to this conversation, or if you have anything that you want to share as well about your journey or where you're from, you know, share that in the comments down below. And if you're in this journey with me and you want to keep learning and growing alongside me, then definitely subscribe, because that'll give me a good notice that what I'm doing here is worth something, even though I know it's worth something to me, but it's good to know when it's worth something to others too. So thanks again for your time. My name's Aiden, Studio Raphael. It's a pleasure to have you. Also Raphael, that's my Hebrew name. That's where it comes from. But anyways, thanks. And hopefully I'll see you around the studio sometime. Take care.